All right, let's make sure everything, let's see, go live. All right, making sure it's going live everywhere. And wait, I think there's one more. Oh, here we go. And one more. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear and see me okay. Hello, welcome, welcome. I know this is normally not the time that I go live anywhere, but I wanted to jump on and say hello and see if there's any questions that you have. As soon as you come on, what I want you to do is I want you to put in the comments how you will, oh, hold on. Your internet connection might not be suitable for live streaming. Try checking. Well, hopefully everyone can see and hear. I'd like everyone to write down in the comments how they can see their life if they heal. So if they're thriving in their life currently, write down what that would look like for you. I want to see that in the comments. Is that going on trips, going on adventures? What exactly is that? If you could wave a magic wand and create your best life, write that down in the comments. And as you're doing that, writing that down, and I will definitely answer any questions. The more people that participate, I will definitely make sure that you get more of your questions answered. So the more likes and loves that you give, the more hearts that you share, the more that you interact, the more that I will be able to answer questions. So write down in the comments as soon as you come on, what would your life look like if you were thriving? And, be creative. Think about whatever it is that it would look like, whether it's married to an amazing partner, is it going on trips? Is it having all the things that your life desires? Tell me what that looks like. And after you do that, go ahead and ask me a question about anything related to that question, meaning how to heal from unhealthy relationships. So whether you are still in the relationship, I guess, you know what? Let's find out first of all. Write in the comments, are you still in it? Write down the word in it. Or if you are out of it, write out of it. That way I know where you are at. And I can make sure that I'm answering any questions depending on where you're at. And then after you do that, then go ahead and write down whatever your questions are for me. How or what kind of support do you need from me in order to truly feel like you are thriving in all areas of your life? All right, I see some people coming on saying hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. All right, what do you got? I am here for you, answering all your questions. If for those of you who are still in the toxic relationship, no, when you're in it, it's really hard to see what life can look like outside. But there's that little part of you, perhaps, that says to yourself, I think maybe things can get better. I think maybe it can. And that's how I felt. I was like, you know what? Things are really shitty right now, but maybe they can get better. And they can't get better if I stay in this relationship the way it is. But it was really hard for me to see. And anyone who's out of it, you can feel free to write down your response there. But for those of you who are like out of it on the other side, you might be able to give some insight as well. But when I was in it, it was really hard for me to think about what it would look like on the other side. How could life possibly be? And especially when it gets to those hard parts, because a lot of times it gets more difficult, let's be real, before it gets easier. So you decide to end that relationship. This is why so many people avoid. This is one of the biggest issues that we deal with clients when they're trying to end these relationships, is that feeling of avoidance. We are natural people pleasers. And I'm going to tell you a funny story about being a people pleaser in a few minutes. But we are natural people pleasers. So we want to make sure that everybody is happy. But that means we put our happiness to the side in order to try to make other people happy. Even the people that are treating us like crap. We are still making them the priority instead of ourselves. And so when we're thinking about like, hey, this isn't working. This is a terrible relationship. I am very unhappy. I don't want to be in this anymore. A lot of us have this concern of maybe it's not going to be any better. Or I made a promise that once I got married, I would stay married. Or all the good ones are taken. Or I'm just too screwed up and I'm never going to find anyone good enough anyway. So we have all these different thoughts that go on in our head. And again, it's really hard for us to picture what it could look like if we allowed ourselves to get out. And so that's something that's really, really important to start thinking about is, and I want you to start picturing it. And that's why I asked you to write it down, is because it's great to have that visual of what it is that you would like to have your life look like. So we talked about the people that are still in that relationship, the people that are out. This is something, and I did a post about this on my Facebook group today, talking about how so often we think that after we leave, we have this relief, we have this freedom. And then there's this feeling of like not necessarily impending doom for all of us, although it kind of did feel that way for me, because that's when I went through my dark night of the soul. That's when I went through my depression and my really, really hard stuff. I finally had gotten out of this abusive situation with this really unhealthy relationship that I had tried for so long to make it work. I finally got out. And at first, I was so relieved. I was like, oh my gosh, I am so happy to be out of that hellhole. I mean, literally. And like everything's just going to be great now. And I'm just never going to do that again. And then I found that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, the higher power, was deciding instead to show me that there was some work I had to do. And at first I was ignoring it because, hey, the bad relationship was because of the ex. It wasn't because of me. It's not because I did anything wrong. But I realized really quickly there were things that I had to change and I had to heal if I didn't want to end up in another toxic relationship moving forward. And that part was really hard because as I started to uncover and feel all of the big feelings that I had been literally suppressing for years, I'm not just talking about a few years. I probably had been suppressing some of those feelings for most of my life because as the oldest child in a, and not always the most functional family, I was always the one to go to, the helper, the fixer. Let me make sure I'm doing everything I need to make things right. Right. And so, being that, and, that's how I felt. That was my feeling as the oldest child. And so to be able to go into there and say, okay, I need to look at all the times that I've put my wants and needs to the side and how I was trained to be in these unhealthy relationships, to be the scapegoat, to be the caretaker, all of that. And I had to unlearn that and really start to put myself first. It is not selfish to make ourselves a priority. It is not selfish to make ourselves a priority. And it's not selfish to want to be happy. And I have a pretty good feeling that it was not your purpose on this planet to be with someone who treats you like crap all the time. Because you cannot do all the great, wonderful things that you are put here to do if you are with someone who treats you like crap all the time. So that's something to keep reminding yourself. You're not winning any awards later on because you stayed in a relationship for too long with someone that was not worth your time and energy. So it is in your best interest to start getting that help in that healing that you need in order to not repeat those steps and repeat those patterns moving forward. And because I realized that, I actually, in that dark night of the soul, uncovering all those big feelings, that's when I realized, hey, even with a degree in psychology, even as a certified crisis counselor, even as someone who's always the go-to, the caretaker, the everything for everybody, it was my turn to say, hey, I needed help. I needed someone to let me know exactly what I needed to do in order to actually heal so that I wouldn't get back into another toxic relationship. And that's really what started my healing journey of realizing I needed that outside support to really help me see the areas that I wasn't seeing. So on that note, who has written, I haven't seen anybody yet write down. Let me go. I'm streaming in a few places right now. Who has written down what their life would look like if they were thriving in their lives? Now, it might be hard for you to picture that right now. It might be hard for you to say, hey, this is what thriving looks like. So let me build a little picture for you. If you were a business, I would say, how much money do you want to make? That's not what this is. Although it could be part of it. If you were in my training last night, we did talk about how financial gains is part of the healing process. But let's say that part of your life that's thriving, and please fill in the blanks for yourself and add by putting in the comments. What is your life like now that you are living this life of your dreams? Dream big, there's no reason not to. And I bet you that when you start doing the work, it's going to be way bigger than even that. So this was my paradise. This was my thought of what it could possibly be like. Something as simple as not having to answer every 5 minutes while I was gone a phone call because I was being checked in on all the time. That was so annoying. I would go out and the ex would be like, oh yeah, well, I don't care if you go out. I don't ever give you a hard time. But then if I didn't bring my cell phone with me And I didn't answer the text messages or the phone calls, he would keep harassing. And then he would say, if you don't answer the phone, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to come see where you are. And I'm like with my friends having a girls' night at their house. And like, I'm so mortified. So instead of me hanging out with my friends, trying to have a good time, I'm sitting there on my phone, texting all the time. And my friends are all asking me, what's going on? Is everything okay? Give me some likes and loves if that's anything that you've ever pictured before. Now, that's something that maybe you want to avoid. Maybe that's something you don't want. So what about if you had someone who was supportive of you, someone who was excited for your hopes and dreams? What if you had a community of people that all wanted you to succeed? What if you had the job that you loved that made lots of money and you got to do all the things that you wanted to do for yourself? What if that was your new life? What if it was living somewhere that you really loved living? What if it was being home and being in a safe place where you felt calm and felt heard and understood? What if it was going on adventures? Whether it was because you were single and going on adventures with your girlfriends, or maybe it was going on adventures with your best friend and being able to not be worried that there was going to be a big fight or that they were going to blow up or throw it in your face later on. I want you to start imagining what it would be like if you did the work and started to heal. Because all of these things are possible. We just have to get out of our own way. We think that we're asking too much when most of the time we just have lowered expectations so much that we are not actually reaching for those big dreams that we have, which are attainable. We just have to take the right steps in order to make those things happen for us. All right. So Fran said she's 3 months out. Excellent. Okay. So you're 3 months out. Good. And again, write down in the comments for those of you who are watching and listening, what would you like your life to look like? Or what would your life look like if you were thriving, I guess is the question. So write that down. Good morning, good afternoon, good, whatever time it is for everybody that's watching. All right, questions. I don't see any questions. I don't see, give me some likes and loves if this is helpful so far. So one of the things that is the plan of what we need to do while we are healing and creating this life where we are thriving, really creating this new life for ourselves, is we need to make sure that we are regaining our sense of self-worth, because we lose our sense of self-worth when we are in toxic relationships. So how do you rebuild your self-worth? How do you rebuild how you see and feel about yourself, how you interact with other people that you're with? Because if we don't feel we are worthy of a healthy relationship, then we are not going to seek out a healthy relationship. If we don't feel we are worthy of a life where we are thriving, because I haven't seen anyone write down what their life would look like if they were thriving. So it makes me wonder, have you not been able to picture that for yourself? Is that something that's even hard to think about? Because if we don't feel that we're worthy of that, then we're not even going to go after it. Or we might self-sabotage if it starts to be things moving in the right direction for ourselves. Or if we start moving in that direction, maybe not self-sabotage, maybe also that too, but we might stop in the middle of it because, again, we don't feel worthy. So as we do these hard things of healing, one of those hard things, and I'll tell clients all the time, we do hard things. It is possible to stop avoiding, to do the things that need to be done, because when you do those things, that is actually a sign of self-care. Because self-care is about saying no to things that do not serve you. It's about saying no to the things that you don't want to do, that feel uncomfortable. It's about ending those relationships that are not good for you. It's not about avoiding them. And when you start practicing doing that, then that's really you protecting your self-worth. That's protecting you. So self-care protects your self-worth. Self-care is not just bubble baths. It's not just spa days. It's not just hanging out with your friends, although all of those things are amazing. And definitely, don't get me wrong, I definitely think you should do all those things. But real self-care is about letting yourself know that you are worthy of that. You are worthy of boundaries. You are worthy of taking care of yourself. You are worthy of saying no and having difference of opinions than other people. And all of those things are not only okay, but they're part of what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. So self-worth is really important. In the comments, again, if you're just coming on, what would your life look like if you were thriving in your life? Think about as many things as you can. What would your life look like if you were thriving, if you were no longer stuck in this toxic relationship, if you were no longer stuck in this dark time of your life, maybe where you're lost and don't know who you are? Because again, most of us feel that freedom at first. And then we're like, why do I keep thinking about them? Why do I keep wishing things were different? Why do I keep going back there? Why do I keep hoping they're going to call? Why do I keep hoping they're going to change? You know, there's those underlying things. Or why can't I find anyone yet? Or am I attractive enough to find somebody? We go through all those different things of that negative thinking instead of focusing on what do I have to do to create this most amazing life for myself. All right. I still don't really see any questions. I see a few comments, but not really any questions. Let me just see. Oh, here we go. Okay. I have a perfect picture and something I had until this mask fell off. And I found out he was secretly doing drugs. Nightmare. I'm wondering if what I wanted wasn't realistic. He seemed too good to be true. So you wanted travel, cuddles, respect, security, peace, fun, friends, and passionate. Well, when you think about, I mean, and I'm sorry that happened to you. But the thing with drugs is that drugs are, depending on what they are, they can be addictive. So that might not even be something that it's his addictive personality. That might be something that he was really good at hiding. Addicts are very good at hiding their addictions. And so I'm wondering if now that you're feeling upset because this wasn't who you thought they were, if you are questioning your ability to choose a healthy partner. Because the things that you want of having cuddles and travel and respect and security and compassion and being best friends and all that kind of stuff, that's literally not too much to ask. It's not too much to ask. In fact, you know, those are like the basic things. When you are in a healthy relationship, those are the kind of things that you should have an expectation for any partner. And so, like, you know, one of the things that we do in the program is really building up that self-worth, that self-esteem, so that if things, and we also want to make sure that we can say no to the things that are no longer serving us. So when things go wrong, we don't try to fix or make them into something else. And we don't rush into things too quickly. We allow them to show us who they are. And then we make decisions based on that, on what's best for ourselves. And so having someone who's got an addiction, that is another layer of protecting yourself. How do you want to proceed with someone who has an addiction? Some people stay and they try to make the person, you know, become something different. Some people have the person so badly addicted, it could kill them, you know. Then there's other issues that go on there. But someone who's addicted, they tend to be people that are also very secretive. They know how to manipulate. They know how to say the right things in order to get that. He was excellent and was drug-free for 2 years. I'm questioning he was all those things, but didn't last, and he is gone. I had no idea he was doing drugs until August. So here's my question. Did you know he was doing drugs before then? Because if somebody had an issue before with drugs or alcohol, for me, that would be a probable no for myself moving forward. It depends. Like if they were smoking weed or whatever, it probably wouldn't be a big deal. If it's hard drugs, that would be something that would be a no. Because for me, a boundary would be, I don't want anyone who's doing drugs. So if they've done drugs before and it's hard drugs, then they do have that addiction concern. And for me, that would be a concern to move forward with them. In fact, I think one of the guys that I dated actually, I think I share the story sometimes, but I dated this guy and he literally lost like all of his family. And he was one of like 5 kids. He had lost his parents, all of his siblings, everybody. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I had a problem with meth. He was from Alabama. He's like, everybody has problems with meth in Alabama. That's what he told me. I'm not saying that that's true. That's just what he said. And the part of me that wanted to like take care, the people pleasing, the really, you know, empathetic person had this really huge sense of, let me jump in there and take care of you and show you what real love is and prove to you that you can be okay. And the part that had already done the work at that point was like, I don't want someone who's had a problem with drugs, because they're going to have problems with other stuff later on. If something doesn't go right, there is a chance that they will relapse. If you're listening to this and you have been addicted and you haven't relapsed, congratulations, that's amazing. But for me, that would be something that would be a red flag for me, because I already know that that is a like negative point for them. And then that is something that they're more sensitive or prone to. All right. So, I think I got muted here. Okay, let me try again. Hold on. And now, end live before trying sub only live. What does that mean? You may get one new subscriber from the preview. No, let's see. Okay. I'm going to come back. Sorry. I've gotten streaming on a few different places because I said the word drugs on TikTok. I wasn't even talking about actual drugs or me doing them. I'll have to say something else. Hold on. Sorry. I don't mean to. Okay. All right. Anyway, so let's say something else. When they're using, I'll just say that instead. When they're using or they've used in the past, that would be something that would be a complete no go for me. But that's where you have to know where your boundaries are. And that's something that you learn. You know, one of the things that I do with my clients is when they are ready to start dating, we are very, very specific on what they need to do. Like we really hold their hand to make sure that they really know exactly what they're getting into before they start a relationship. Nope, he said he had tried drugs only when he was a teen, but he was against drugs and was consistent about being against them and had no addiction history. This was something he lied about completely. He was cannabis friendly, but that's it. All right. I would wonder if we looked through that, if there was other red flags that maybe you missed. And I'm not saying, you know, and this is terrible, but just for learning purposes, it does make me wonder, because someone who starts to have an addiction with drugs, even if they had it and they were secretive about it, and I said the word again, I don't want to get in trouble with TikTok, but if they've had an issue before, then again, they are very good at manipulating, but they normally will show other warning signs. And here's the thing: when this is the best relationship we've ever had, when they're showing all of the things that we have been looking for, that we want in a relationship, and then this person comes along and they're showing all of these things, we might ignore some of those red flags because we're so excited about meeting someone that seems to check off all of the things on our list. And so that would be my question, is maybe there were things that were missed because of the fact that they were so good, you know, and they were better than maybe we've had before. You know, also too, when we've dealt with crappy people in our relationships, someone could just be a basically normal human being. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. They're not treating me like crap. Like, sometimes that's something that simple. And that's why, again, we really do recommend people, after they have gone through the supportive healing after the toxic relationship, when they're ready to start dating, it really is so important to have someone to hold your hand through it so that we don't fall into it, because we have these different layers of healing. And so we have this layer, we're like, I got it, I feel so much better. And then there are parts that are like new levels when we start dating, and new levels when we start getting into a relationship. So all of those things, it's so easy for us to fall back into those old patterns when we are used to doing them, even when we've done all this work. You know, those kind of things happen. All right, let me see if I have any other questions. I see people. Let me see. Oh, he really played the part. I met his family too. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. We can also chat later. I know we know each other, and I'm not going to say who you are for your own privacy. Okay. Let's see. Fran, I thrive in my job, spend the money on my own self-care. Awesome, Fran. And remember, self-care is not just about bubble baths and all that kind of stuff. Self-care is also really about making sure that you have boundaries, that you are speaking your wants and needs, and sharing, sharing your wants and needs really with others. So if you just came on, make sure that you write in the comments, what would your life look like if you were thriving after a toxic relationship? And also too, you can write in it or write in the comments, either in it or out? In it or out, so that I know where you are in your relationship status. All right. Any other questions or comments? See a few people. We see over here. It's so funny how different streaming places are more sensitive to some things than others. I think actually I was on I don't remember where I was on. I was on TikTok, and I think I literally just showed my workbook, and TikTok was like, "Nope, shutting you down. You're trying to sell something." I'm like, I was actually a free thing that I was giving away, but it shut me down just for showing the workbook, which was really interesting. If anybody is following this and they're looking for help, you also can go to beinglovedshouldn't-hurt.com/links, and you can go ahead and grab some of that free stuff. There's a whole bunch of free stuff there if you are looking for help in starting to heal. And you can also set up a time to chat with me or my husband, David, to help you heal from toxic relationships. All right. Anything else? Okay. So I promised you when you first came on, and again, when you're first coming on, write down what your life would look like if you were thriving in all of your relationships. I promised you that I was going to tell you a story about people pleasing. And I thought this is really funny. And I thought of it because I was in yoga this morning. Friday is my yoga day. I'm even wearing one of my yoga shirts. And it was, I don't even know, but I think this. And it's about people pleasing. So I'm at yoga. This is whatever amount of years ago. And I always, still to this day, I put my yoga mat out because I normally get there early, and then I go do other exercises. And again, if you have questions, you can feel free to write them down. So when I'm done with my story, I'll come back. But again, going back to the story. So I put my yoga mat down. I put my water bottle on top of my yoga mat. And I think I even put something else. I had something else on there. And I go for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I come back and my yoga mat is gone. I can't find it anywhere until I start scanning the room. And when I scan the room, there's a woman that has my yoga mat under her yoga mat. Now, the part of me, and again, this is after I've done the work, this is all this kind of stuff, but immediately that little people pleaser inside of me was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because this is the part that I didn't even say. The woman has like her leg wrapped. I don't know if she broke her ankle or whatever. She had one of those wheelie things that when you've broken your ankle and you put your foot on it to like wheel yourself around, that was next to her. So she's got this wheelie thing next to her, and she's crippled. That's not the right word to say, not nice to say, but she's injured. And so I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh gosh, this woman has like a broken leg and she's on my yoga mat. And what am I going to do? And so again, that little part of me that's still little people pleaser inside me was like, maybe I'll just let her use my yoga mat for the entire yoga class. And then I was like, no, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. Like, I have to speak up. I can't let this random woman use my yoga mat just for the fact that she's crippled. So, so I go over to her and I say, excuse me, where did you get that yoga mat from? I think is what I said. And she's like, oh, I just got it from over there on the floor. And I'm like, with a water bottle on it and all of my stuff on it. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's mine. And she's like, well, I'm sorry. I'm just going to use it for now. And I was like, no, I need to use my yoga mat. She's refusing to give me my yoga mat. And again, the little part of me is like the part that wants to walk away and I don't want to cause a problem, but I'm like, no, this is mine. So I keep going. The instructor comes over and says, hey ladies, what's the problem? Because now like everyone, literally everybody in the yoga studio is now looking in this direction of me trying to get my yoga mat that this woman stole. The instructor comes over and says, oh, can't you just use another yoga mat? And I was like, but it's my yoga mat. It's literally my yoga mat. She took it and pulled it over here and put her yoga mat on top. She's like, well, yeah, my yoga mat wasn't big enough, so I wanted to use another one. And I'm like, okay, there are other yoga mats here in the studio that you can borrow, but not mine. I'm like, what am I going to do? Snatch the yoga mat out from under this woman who's got a broken leg and is in the wheelie thing? So I'm like, so finally, she's like, okay, I guess I'll let you have your yoga mat back. So I'm like, okay, thanks. So like I pull it out and this woman, I mean, I guess this makes me terrible because I didn't think about it at the time. She gets up and she starts literally crawling over to where the other yoga mats are, grabs it and pulls it back to where she is and lays on there and does the class. Now, don't get me wrong. This was the most uncomfortable yoga class that I've ever had. I had this like pit in my stomach of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I just had to make this woman who's got a broken ankle in her wheelie thing drag her body over. But I didn't make her do that. She shouldn't have taken my yoga mat. And, you know, I felt really tough. And in the end, when everything was over, she actually said to me from like, you know, wherever I was, and she was like, hey, I just want to apologize. I don't know where my brain was. I'm kind of out of it. I'm really sorry. And so she apologized to me. And I was like, okay, well, that's better. Now I feel a little bit less terrible about making this woman do that. But the reason why I share that story, first of all, I think it's really funny. And it was really funny at the time, like after, not during while it was happening, but after I was like, oh God, only me would make this poor woman like that this happened to her. But I think that it's really relevant when we're talking about these toxic relationships. When we end these relationships, we feel badly for them. Like, oh, I feel terrible that I abandoned them, that I left them, that I'm not there for them, or you know, whatever those things are. We feel badly. We have this because we're empathetic. We feel badly for them. And so we just have this guilt, and we have to heal that guilt. If we don't heal that guilt, we're going to keep that guilt and shame with us, and we're going to bring that into another relationship. But it wasn't your fault. Just like with the yoga mat lady, it wasn't my fault that I was saying something to the lady. It was her fault for stealing my damn mat. Just like it was your ex-relationship, it was their fault for treating you like crap. It was their fault for how they behaved in the relationship, whether they, you know, had an affair, whether it was drugs, whether it was, you know, not being supportive, whatever it was because of their choices and their behavior. Because one thing that women do is we will explain over and over again how frustrated we are. And it is very often that we are not listened to. And it is very often that the partner is like, I didn't know that they were that serious. And, you know, to give them credit, we might have said many, many times that we were done, and we weren't really done. We stayed. We gave them way more opportunities than we ever really should have. But, you know, but then when we finally are serious, they don't believe it. And then they try to do everything they can to manipulate. And what they do also is that if we do give in and say yes and stay, then they actually lose respect for us and they start treating us worse. And all of that is because of them and their behavior and their choices. We get to decide, hey, I'm going to speak up and say something, even though it's really uncomfortable. I'm going to say something about this woman stealing my yoga mat, even though she's got a broken ankle and a wheelie thing. I'm going to speak up and say something and end this because I need to protect myself. It is okay to protect yourself. Always. Because nobody else is going to do it. And if you don't protect yourself, guess who's not going to respect you? Not only yourself, but the person you're in a relationship with. Because if they see you as a doormat that they can use you and manipulate you however they want, then why would they bother changing? The amount of times that I told my ex not to curse at me and call me his favorite curse words, and you decide what they were, because I have a feeling you probably know exactly what they were. One of his favorite was the C word, and I'm not saying it only because I don't want to get kicked off of online. And, you know, he'd like to call me bitch. And, you know, other ones, because I think that one's a safe one. But some of the other ones are like, don't ever call me those names. And then first thing he would do is call me all the names. And I would say, don't ever call me that again. And then he would do it. He didn't respect me because I was allowing him to continue treating me badly. So you are never wrong for sticking up for yourself. You are never wrong for doing what you need to take care of yourself. And again, if you're looking for any extra support, you can always go to beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links, grab your free resources. If you're not following me, make sure that you're following me. But we do these kinds of trainings in the Facebook group, Toxic Love Transformation, every Thursday. We definitely go live. I've been going live more often this week because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I do want to make sure that everyone that's needing support in ending these toxic relationships, and really my favorite part is thriving, really creating your best life. And that's why I asked you to really think about what it is you want your life to look like. Because if you can start picturing it, then we can start getting you there. If we can picture what it is, even if it's only that little glimmer of hope, then we can get you to that next place. Because we have to look at like, what are the obstacles that we need to overcome? And the obstacles for us are, people pleasing, avoidance, not standing up for ourselves, not being assertive, not having healthy boundaries, being perfectionists. Those are all the biggest things that we help clients with all the time. And we do that with curriculum and all the great stuff, the individual programs that we have. But the help is available. So you have to start thinking about what it is that you want your life to look like. And then you need to make sure that you have a plan in place to make those things actually happen for ourselves. And again, that didn't work for me on my own. I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out on my own, and that didn't work. So I found that for myself and then our clients, it really is getting out of our own head and having somebody else to help us through it. And when we're on shaky ground, right after we've ended that relationship, we feel lost, we feel, overwhelmed. We have all these different feelings going on. And again, for me, that was the dark night of the soul. It also became the most beautiful time in my life where I got to rebuild and recreate. And it's what I love doing. And what David and I love doing with clients is rebuild that life and create something that you are excited beyond your wildest dreams, because you really cannot imagine what life would actually look like once you actually start doing the work. All right. Any other questions? Let me see here. I got a few other people here. I don't see any questions. Again, give me some likes and loves if this is helpful for you so far. Let me think here. And if you got something out of the self-care comments, write down the number 1 in the comments about self-care is not bubble baths and hanging out with your friends and all of that kind of good stuff, and massages. Again, not that that's not great things. Write a 1 in the comments if you understand that really self-care is about speaking up for yourself, saying no to things that don't serve you, and protecting your energy, which just adds to your feeling of self-worth. So put a 1 in the comments if that is something that makes sense to you. Maybe you learned that while you were watching this today. All right, let's see. You are so inspiring, and I don't want to give up on my dream. I just have some serious reflection and healing. Yes, I am very, very sorry. Yes, it is okay for you to protect yourself. Self-care is boundaries and protecting my energy. Hells yeah. He chose to take drugs or whatever reason. It doesn't matter. He lied. His choice. Okay. Yep. People are so shocking. I guess we'll give it back. My ex decided that and I give you a lot of credit because my ex wasn't coming to, he was abusive anyway. And so I should have not stuck around for so many reasons, so many times. But at one point, again, the helper, the let's take care, all that kind of stuff. I caught him actually doing drugs. Cocaine was his drug of choice. He was doing cocaine, and he told me that's why, like, he wasn't coming to bed. And in my head, it was like, I was just not playing video games all the time. So I was mad at him for playing video games all night long. Well, he was playing video games, but he was playing video games all night long because he was also doing coke. And then he switched from that to using pills instead. And I was too understanding. He needs my help. He manipulated me, but I was too understanding, even though for me, that was something that was not what I wanted in my life. I didn't have healthy boundaries then. And so I stuck around way too long trying to be overly understanding because I cared. I wanted to save him. I wanted to protect him. And that's not something that was healthy. That was not a healthy choice that I made for myself because I stayed way longer. And then he would say that the reason why he was treating me so badly is because he was getting off the drugs like I wanted him to. And then he would manipulate me that way as well, that I wasn't being supportive while he was trying to get off drugs. So yeah, a lot of, and it messes with your head. It messes with your brain. And that's the part you really need to heal from after all of this mess. All right. So again, in the comments, how would your life look like if you were thriving in all areas of your life? Feel free to write that down in the comments. If you have any questions for me, you can always send me a private message. But again, go to beingloveshouldn'thurt.com/links and grab those resources for that extra support, or set up a time to chat with myself or David about how we can help support you so that you can get that extra support. All right. And any other questions, feel free to let me know. I don't see any other questions. But you can also follow me. You know, some people are in my Facebook group. So, you know, you are there in Toxic Love Transformation. If you're watching me on some of my other social medias, you can go over to Facebook and you can request to join the Facebook group, which is Toxic Love Transformation. We do go live every Thursday where I do share trainings on how to heal from toxic relationships. And, you know, again, this is my passion. This is something that is very important to me because I know what it feels like when we are not thriving, when we are not feeling happy, when we are not living in our passion and purpose and my dream and create their best lives. I mean, that's all I'm looking for, is to have as many people living their best lives. Because if you can live an amazing life where you're happy and excited to wake up to every day, guess what? You're going to be a lot happier to be around. You're going to be a lot easier to be around, and you're going to be doing great things for everybody else. Each one of us being happy and living in purpose allows, like, it's tenfold, right? It's not just us. Because if you were around cranky, angry people, we tend to get cranky and angry as well. There's a lot of bad things that go on in the world. And if people were just feeling good about themselves, they might not be so angry all the time. So, you know, again, my big goal is, my whole life has been dedicated to prevention. So let's prevent you from getting into another toxic relationship, number one, and let's make sure that you are living in your passion and purpose so that you can create that amazing life that you're excited to wake up to every day, whether you are single or in a relationship. All right. So on that note, I don't see any other questions. I don't see any other comments. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me today. Again, just was a little impromptu hang out with everybody. So have a wonderful weekend. If you need to join the group Toxic Love Transformation on Facebook, go ahead and request to join. Great seeing you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And never forget, you are way stronger than you realize. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. And now I have to get out of all these different places. Let's see. Okay. And bye, everybody. I think I'm frozen. All right. Bye. And now that's good. And now ends. Are we still streaming? We're still streaming.